let's move on to the second part of the show. We're going to shift gears a little bit. Let me take you back to a chart we looked at before. So remember our enterprise workload chart. We talked about these different workloads in the enterprise. We said they're not created equally. They have different requirements for performance and service levels from the underlying storage systems. Now, as you know, many of these workloads are moving to cloud deployment models, and that's what we want to talk about, the impact of cloud on storage and our industry. So as we think about cloud, what's happening is a couple of different trends. First of all, the workloads that require more advanced data services are typically moving to private cloud environments. Customers setting up private clouds inside their IT shops and moving these high service requirement workloads to them, either to a private cloud or to a hosted private cloud. And as you can see from this chart, we have dozens of certified partners we work with around the world to help build these cloud deployment models. Also, there are certain applications moving to the public cloud. And the applications moving to the public cloud are generally those applications that do not require advanced service levels. And this is how cloud deployments are being built out in many of our customer environments. But what we find here is that there are two distinct architectures emerging. There's the architecture built around traditional applications, as you see, is growing at 70% over the next few years off a large base. And there's a new architecture around next generation applications that is supposed to and forecast to grow at 700% off a smaller base. So the important thing is the difference in these two architectures. In the traditional application environments, from a storage point of view, these applications expect to see block and file-based storage systems, transactional consistency, and expect a lot of service from the underlying hardware and software. In the new architecture, typically these are big data applications, object storage, HDFS is very important, eventual consistency of transactions, and more the resiliency built into the software application itself. But the good news is we see growth in both of these environments. So the question in a lot of people's minds is, with all this happening, where are these applications going to be deployed? And the conventional wisdom is that the new architecture only exists in the public cloud, and that the traditional architecture only exists in private clouds. That's not what we're seeing. What we're seeing in practice is a large number of enterprises wanting to set up these new architecture environments for their new applications alongside their existing architectures in their private data center or in their hosted private cloud. So in their private cloud or in their hosted private cloud. So when you look out with this view over the next 4 years and look at where are these applications going to be deployed from a business application point of view, the best predictions that we have been able to come up with many experts is that there will be a significant growth in applications in the cloud, in the public cloud. About 12% of all business applications will run in public clouds. That's a huge shift from today. But the majority will still be in private clouds and hosted private clouds. Now, this environment creates two very interesting challenges. The first challenge is, how do you manage both architectures in a consistent way within a private cloud or a hosted private cloud? And the answer to that question is EMC Viper, our software-defined storage. Now, a number of you came to EMC World. We spent a lot of time talking about Viper at EMC World, and we said it would be available in the second half of the year. The great news today is that we're announcing the GA of Viper this month, which is several months earlier than many people in the audience were expecting. So Viper will be generally available as a commercially shipping product in the month of September. The second challenge we have in this environment is, how do we create public cloud level of simplicity and create web-scale storage for both architectures, both the traditional architecture and the new architecture? And we have an answer for that as well. We're going to talk to you about something brand new today. It's something called Project Nile. Project Nile today is a project. In the first half of next year, it'll be a product. It's EMC's Elastic Cloud Storage. And as I say, today a project, next year a product. And to talk about Viper and Nile, let me hand back to Jeremy.
Okay, let's drill into Viper. Let's start where David left off. We're trying to answer the question, if I've got these new architectures for maybe some of my new web scale applications based on object, and I don't throw out all my existing stuff, I've got a lot of my file and block kind of applications, how do I manage those systems together in a very consistent way? Of course, this is why we built and designed Viper. We termed it, those of you that are EMC world will know, we went big on this term, software-defined storage. What does that mean, and why is Viper unique? Well, first of all, what is unique about Viper is that we separated out the control plane, or the management path, from the data path, from the data plane. We abstracted a number of the functions that you would see in a typical storage array upper level into a layer of software. That means that you can perform those operations on something like a VNX, maybe one that, like the one that we've been talking about today, but you can also perform that operation in a very similar way against a VMAX or an Isilon box, or even a non-EMC array as well, because we've abstracted certain key pieces of functionality. What does the Viper controller do? It really automates the control plane. It allows you to provision these storage arrays. It allows you to put up a self-service interface. Application owners don't like asking IT for more storage. They want a very, very simple self-service experience. The Viper controller provides that. And then you want to understand, well, hey, what have I used? What am I being charged back for the usage of this service? That's provided by the controller. But the secret sauce underneath all of this is the degree of automation that we provided. Think about the public cloud for a second. It's a very automated environment. We've got to bring those levels of automation into the data center. So the automation with Viper is day and night different. Instead of having individual administrators managing individual arrays or individual kinds of arrays, we operate upper level, at a level of virtual arrays. Instead of your admin spending all day cranking through the ticket queue, they can think about designing reusable storage services. And then from an application owner standpoint, instead of filing a help desk ticket and potentially getting storage provisioned in the next few hours or the next few days or, God forbid, the next few weeks, they can get it instantaneously through a self-service portal. So it really changes the game in terms of automation. I said Viper was unique because we've separated the control plane from the data plane. In a lot of cases, the control plane will provision the underlying array and then get out the way. We'll leverage the power of the underlying VNX and VMAX and Isilon, and in many cases, non-EMC systems. But in certain instances, we want Viper to provide data services, potentially for some of these next-generation applications that have been built. The first such data service that will be available in the GA today is object storage. The beauty of this object storage implementation, again, it is pure software. It will run quite happily against your existing EMC or non-EMC storage arrays. It will leverage those arrays as a persistence layer. So if your array didn't come with object storage, don't worry about it. You can just lay a Viper right on top. It also lays the groundwork for us to now support commodity storage. There are certain workloads, as David said earlier, which don't require a high degree of service or a high service level. They may be suitable to deploy on commodity storage, a better economic solution, but everything is managed in the same exact way. Why is this so transformative? If you've got an app today that runs on Amazon S3, or a little bit down the line here, if you've got an application that runs against Hadoop or Hadoop's HDFS access mechanism, or if you've got an Atmos application today, it will run unchanged against the Viper object data services, number one. Number two, you can leverage your existing arrays for persistence. In future, we will be adding commodity storage, but today, you can leverage your existing arrays. And then, as I said a second ago, it paves the way to a lower cost deployment model on top of commodity storage. And then from a management perspective, you don't have to do anything differently. So we think it's a game changer. Now, when does it come in and what does it cost? That's what everybody's asking. As David said, September 27th is the absolute date that this will be orderable. It's very interesting talking about price. We've turned it around into a 3-year total cost of ownership here. We expect that the Viper controller will be 1 cent per gigabyte per month. That's the software. The object data services on top will be 1 cent per gigabyte per month. Now, obviously, as people buy bigger and bigger systems, we expect this to be less. And in fact, we expect it to be about 50% less. The nice thing here is by the time you add in your hardware, you add in your admin costs, we think this allows IT organizations today to set up a system which is as cost-effective as the most cost-effective public cloud providers. That's a big deal. Of course, looking to the future, I mentioned a second ago, we'll be introducing next year support for commodity storage. We'll be adding HDFS access methods to the object storage layer, and expect to see from us software-only implementations of both file and block. So the goal here with Viper is to build out a full, functioning, software-defined storage platform that we think will represent the architecture for a lot of new applications in future. Put another way, we think that this is going to enable folks, whether they be in an IT department or in a service provider, to build a web-scale storage infrastructure without hiring thousands of techies to do it. We have a commercially available offering that folks can take and get going with. So you think, fantastic, surely we're done. We've solved every problem in storage known to man. Well, actually, we weren't satisfied with that. We were like, okay, that's pretty good. You know, pat on the back. We like that. But we think we can do better. And in fact, we think we have to do better than that. Why? Well, let's take a closer look at the public cloud. Remember what David said earlier? We really want to bring that public cloud simplicity to the data center. When people go to the public cloud, what do? They think, okay, the perception is, okay, perception, I've got a low cost per gigabyte. It's going to be cheap. It's easy to purchase. And then it's easy to use. They were probably the three reasons people would cite for why they would go to a public cloud service. The interesting thing, and I said perception earlier, because when you run the numbers, and by the way, most people who use a public cloud service would openly acknowledge this. If you look at the 3-year TCO, this is a tier 4 disk storage, kind of an archiving system, about 100 terabytes of usable. If you look at the cost of a popular public cloud against the cost of either a VNX or an Isilon system, what we see that over 3 years is it's anywhere between 40 to 63% lower cost to use the on-prem VNX or Isilon box. Okay, now you can see here as you access the data in the public cloud, you do pay a premium for network costs, which is why you see the big white box. But forget about that for a second. Let's just drill down into the storage hardware for a second. You're drilling down on that VNX box. About 80% of the cost of the system is actually the storage hardware itself. You think, well, surely, you guys can't possibly be able to deliver storage hardware for cheaper than the public cloud guys. That can't be true. Well, if you look at the actual cost per gigabyte, and this data comes from IDC, if you look at the decline in storage prices over the past 4 years, dollars per gigabyte, what you see that on average, the storage industry, I'm not talking about EMC here, I'm talking about the storage industry, prices drop roughly 22% every year. Now, we don't put out press releases about it, people don't celebrate it the way they do when the public cloud guys drop prices, but on average, the price of storage drops 22%, according to IDC, every single year. Now, if you look at the Amazon price reductions here, then they do put out press releases, they do get a lot of press around their price reductions. What you actually see is that you get a price reduction of somewhere between 9 and 19%, depending on how much you buy. Interestingly enough, the more you buy, the less discount you get. Not quite figured that one out yet, but if you look at, again, 22% for the storage industry as a whole, and anywhere between 9 and 19% with Amazon. All public data, check it out for yourself. Interestingly enough, though, as I said earlier, most people would say, I use the public cloud, I know it's a little bit more expensive, I don't care, I'm still using it. Why is that? Because it's easy. People generally will use the public cloud service, even if it's a bit more expensive, they'll use it because it's easy. So how do we, EMC, provide something that is simple so that folks can stand up these next generation systems in a very public cloud style within their existing data center? That's where we conceived Project Nile. What is Project Nile? It is an elastic cloud storage system for your private cloud. This is not a new online service. Okay, we have been very clear at EMC that we're more an arms supplier to the service provider industry than a service provider ourselves. So this is not a new service, but this is an elastic cloud storage device that you would deploy inside your data center if you were a customer, or your data center if you were a service provider, because you could use it then to offer services to your customers. What is Nile focused on? Nile is not going to try and solve every problem known to man. We are very, very focused on these capacity-optimized workloads. We're not going to deliver systems that have got massive numbers of IOPS, tens and hundreds of thousands of IOPS. We're focused on delivering cost-effective gigabytes in a very, very simple way. So the bottom half of the chart that David was showing earlier. Now, how do you purchase Nile? Well, we've got to make it simple. We have a myriad of options in your typical enterprise storage array. This is going to be simple. You're going to pick whether you want block storage, whether you want file storage, or whether you want object storage. It's going to vary depending on the workload that you've got in mind. As much as these systems are predominantly capacity optimized, we can dial up the IOPS a little bit. Some of these systems will warrant a little bit more performance than others. And then the final thing that you've got to pick is the amount of storage that you want. And boom, that's it, you're done. And so once you've ordered, or once you've purchased, what turns up? Well, we have here today, for the first time, we have some prototype systems. We have never shown these in public before, so this is an exclusive for those of you in the room. Once you've purchased these systems, one of these things behind this door will show up. So why don't we spin the turntable and let's show everyone what a Nile system looks like. All right. I've always wanted to get a ride on one of these. If we had a bit more time, I'd do a full lap. Okay, so these are the Nile systems. As you can see, we have this river-like look down the middle of them. People say, well, why do you call it Nile? Well, unlike other long rivers, the Nile is a little bit longer and a little bit less dangerous. So we thought it was an appropriate name. So the Nile systems, as I said, these are prototype systems. This is a project. It will be a product in the early part of next year. So once you've ordered online, this is what is going to show up at your site. You plug them in, and then boom, you have access. And so what I'm going to do now is, rather than keep talking about Nile, I want to show you a quick demonstration. And so I'm going to get some assistance here, because this is a demo that even I can do. Thank you very much. All right, if we can just flip the iPad over. Okay, so here what you're seeing on the screen is the EMC store. Those of you that have not visited EMC.com will have seen us building out a store capability over the last 6 months or so. We've got our VNX Lotus F1 Special Edition. Make sure you get your order in for yours right away. I'm going to select the top left, which is the Nile offering. And as I said earlier, I can pick, file, block, or object. Very, very simple. I've got a database kind of analytics. My night job these days is marketing, so I've got a big data analytics application in mind. I'm going to go pick some block storage and go configure here. Now, I want a little bit more performance, but really what I want is, there you go, I want about 500 terabytes. This is perfect. It's suitable for general databases, some virtual machines and some backup workloads. So you're not going to run your mission-critical applications on this, clearly, but look, I want 500 terabytes and I want it quickly. I'm going to go into a quote. I've got my summary. Yep, it's databases, virtual machines, backups. That all looks good. I could have this go out to a partner for quote. In this instance, I'm going to have EMC Direct call me, and boom, that is my quote request complete. Now, once that's done, one of these things will show up. Plug it in. And then, as we go over to the other side of the stage here, I'm going to ask Simon Seagrave to join me. Give him a round of applause. Simon.
Hi, Jeremy. Good to see you.
We get a bigger round of applause if this works, all right?
Yeah. No pressure.
So Simon is an IT guy, but he's really a marketing guy. He is the guy who supports the marketing systems in IT. So he's a very, very important guy at EMC. And so this Nile thing is going to revolutionize and change your life, right?
It's going to make my job a lot easier, Jeremy. Definitely for provisioning, speed of provisioning. In the past, I've had to log a help desk ticket, which, like you mentioned, sometimes could take hours or days. And this just empowers me to sort of spin up storage as and when I need it.
Perfect. Let's get going.
Yeah. So I'll kick things off. I'll just log on, like so.
Okay, so what do we got here? This is our self-service catalog that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, this is great because when the product turned up, basically it gave me a couple of service catalogs already pre-installed, ready to go. So as you see there, we've got VMware, Windows covered. But in this instance here, the development team and marketing, we've got a big data analytics project that we're just kicking off at the moment.
It's a very important project.
Oh yes, most definitely. And basically the development team have come to me and said, look, we need a bit of temporary storage to kick off the project. So I'm just going to go through the motions with this here. So I'm just going to select some block storage. What I like about this, nice, clean, easy interface. So nothing complicated here at all.
So you got a name for it there?
So I'm going to call it marketing temp. Let's select a host. So there's 5 hosts in our marketing department here. So I'm going to select the first one. Virtual array. So we've got 2 Nile boxes back at the office there. So the nice thing with this, what I liked, is that I can manage both of them, or at least I can provision storage from both of them from the single interface.
Place.
So I don't need to swap between interfaces, which is nice. Virtual pool, they're my sort of tiers of storage I've got there. This is just for development, so I'm just going to go with a bronze tier.
This might be like levels of data protection or things like that.
That's right, yes, yeah. And then projects, here we go, here's my big data analytics project. And duration, well, they've asked me that they want it spun up for about a month, so I'm going to select a month.
So this is kind of the elastic nature of it. You're not going to pay for it forever.
That's the great thing with it, yes. I'm not...
And this backup option that's checked, why is that grayed out? What's the deal there?
Yeah, well, that's actually to do with the policies. So the administrator of the Nile boxes back at EMC there, they've put a policy in place whereby any marketing-related volumes that we create are backed up automatically, because obviously, because the nature of what we do, they don't want to leave anything to chance, so they want everything backed up.
And so all you've got to do is specify how big this database is going to be?
So let's create 500 gigs.
500 gigabytes.
And there we go. So
wait. $25?
Yeah,
I've never had a bill from IT for anything I've ever done for $25.
Yeah, this is the bit I really like. Definitely helps with my budgeting.
So this thing, but if you do the math, I mean, we're probably at what, about 5 cents a gigabyte?
Yeah,
a month?
about 5 cents.
Right,
Yeah,
that doesn't seem like a bad number. I like that.
It's very good. So literally, what I'm going to do here is click the order button.
It's provisioning?
It's provisioning on the back end at the moment, so it's spinning up the 500 gigs, connecting it through to my host.
6 seconds, all done?
6 seconds, all done. If I want to have a look at a few extra details here, for example, I can...
just to prove it worked?
Just to prove it worked, yeah, just to confirm.
So you're all done. We've got the system, it's in, we had some templates in there, you've gone and provisioned, and now your marketing guys can go build out their big data system.
That's exactly it. But
and then how much have we used? I guess that's the question.
Well, this is the next bit I wanted to show you, actually. This is particularly good. So we've got usage reports, and as an end user of the Nile storage product here, this is the bit I particularly like, because I can run this report anytime I want, and basically it gives me the opportunity to keep tabs on how much storage I've utilized and also the costs involved. So for example, I can see over the past month, for example, we've consumed about 16 terabytes
So
of
from a
storage.
single place, you can look across all of the marketing systems and see exactly how much has been provisioned, and then I guess most importantly, you get the cost per gigabyte over on the right-hand side. Simon, fantastic job. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. Cheers.
Okay, just to wrap this up then, what is Project Nile? We think it is the world's first commercially available, it's a software, hardware package you can buy from EMC, complete, it's file block and object, web scale, exabyte plus, as David mentioned earlier, storage infrastructure for your data center. Whether you are a customer of EMC or whether you are a service provider. As David said, a project today, a product in the early part of next year. Okay, so to land the plane or drive over the finish line with the race car, let me hand back to David.
Jeremy, thank you. All right, thank you very much. Okay, so hopefully we've shared some groundbreaking news with you today. We're very excited about what we've announced. Let me try and wrap this up in just a couple of minutes. We've really talked about a couple of key things in the industry. We talked about the fact that existing applications are still growing, forecast at 70%. We've talked about a 700% growth in new applications for the third platform. We also said that to keep up with this information growth, you have to leverage disruptive technologies. And we've talked about how in these new systems, we're taking full advantage of Intel multi-core, virtualization, and flash. And these systems need to be architected and designed to take advantage of these technologies. We've got patented technologies that does this. So the first thing we talked about today at great length, and it's very exciting, is the new VNX. So the new VNX fully leverages these disruptive technologies to take incredible power out of them to deliver to our customers. Now, the important thing is, as Rich said, the VNX is a mid-tier system. We're talking about systems that start at below $20,000 that include the entire range of technology that he talked about. Starting below 20, going up to several $100,000, these are efficient, small-scale systems, and they're really, really powerful. And that is the secret sauce of what we've done with the new VNX. They let you take advantage of your second platform applications, run them faster, and they're a foundation for third platform. We've also talked about Viper. This is where Viper fits in. It fits in two ways. In the third platform, the most common storage type is going to be object storage. Whether it be an HDFS or an S3 interface, it'll be principally object storage, and that's where the Viper Data Services sets in. The Viper Data Services lets you build these new third platform applications and run them on your existing infrastructure like the VNX, but also will let you leverage commodity hardware for those lower use applications. And then the Viper Controller provides the secret sauce for managing this entire environment, both your existing apps and your new apps from a storage point of view, in a simple, consistent way. That's the power of what we've announced today. And then finally, we've taken some of this technology, and Nile is based upon many of the things that we've talked about today. Clearly, Nile includes technologies from Viper. It includes technologies from the VNX family, and we've packaged this together to give you a truly capacity-optimized elastic cloud storage system that will do block and file and object, and it will do it at web scale, and it'll do it on a geographically distributed basis. This is completely revolutionary. And as Jeremy said, the first truly commercially available web scale cloud optimized storage platform. Simple to buy, simple to deploy, simple to consume. So in summary, what we're doing from a storage point of view is unique in the industry. We're giving you storage technologies for the second platform and the third platform. We're giving you storage technologies for the public cloud and the private cloud and the hosted public cloud. And we're giving you technology to manage these all together in a consistent way. Nobody else in the storage industry is getting close to what we're doing here. So before we end the webcast, I'd first of all like to thank everybody on the webcast for joining us, as well as our live studio audience. But before we end the webcast, I have one additional special guest for you, Mario. Thank you very much.